Love when the house smells like Christmas. Can you smell that? It smells like Christmas. Welcome to MoggyBoxCraft, I'm Deborah, and today I'm going to share with you my favourite Christmas cake recipe. It is delicious! That was a chef's kiss, by the way. Call it what you like, fruit cake, Christmas cake, festive cake, it doesn't matter. It's delicious. Everyone likes cake. Not everyone, I don't know these people. Why would you not like a festive fruit cake? Beyond me. What are you going to need? You're going to need a large pot. Do we need this? Maybe not. Some kitchen scales, chopping board and a sharp knife, a small knife, a grater, a smaller grater, or something that's going to help you grate the rind on lemons and oranges. A wooden spoon and a spatula, some measuring spoons, a whisk or a fork. I've got this little handheld whisker, just turns on and whizzes round. A pair of scissors, a cake tin, some parchment or baking paper. You're also going to need a few bowls and maybe a measuring jug. So the first step is done 24 hours before. It's a bit of a long cooking process how I think about it. Oh well. So your first step, you're going to soak the fruit. You're going to need a large pot for this. So inside the pot you're going to put all your dried fruit. So this is the dried fruit I'm going to put into the pot first. 100 grams of glazed cherries, 60 grams of chopped up dates, 100 grams of roughly cut dried apricots, 40 grams of dried cranberries, 450 grams of mixed dried fruit. So in here we've got sultanas, raisins, citrus peel, orange peel, lemon peel. If you can't find mixed fruit, just use sultanas and raisins. Don't worry if you don't have all these dried fruits, as long as your dried fruit adds up to 750 grams in total. So just go ahead and add all your dried fruit to your pot. And make sure you've chopped everything into smaller pieces. Well, everything except the cranberries and the mixed fruit. Lovely. So we're going to add the liquid next. So first I'm going to add is 200 ml of hot water. Maybe do this in a cup instead of a glass. So add the hot water into your pot. I'm also going to add in 150 ml of fresh orange juice. So lastly I'm going to add in 100 ml of spiced rum. Because it's Christmas. What's a Christmas cake without alcohol? Don't worry, the Christmas cake will not be alcoholic. Well, maybe a little after I've fed it for a few months. Nevertheless, so if you want to omit the alcohol, it's absolutely fine. Just make up the difference with orange juice or water. Cheers! This is how the fruit mix looks. So that's all the dried fruit and liquid in the pot. Give it a mix, pop a lid on, and wait for 24 hours. So you're going to leave your fruit mix for 24 hours. Thankfully for you guys, here's what I did yesterday. So after 24 hours, your mixture looks something like this. So as you can see, the dried fruit has absorbed pretty much most of the orange juice, alcohol and water. So after 24 hours, you're going to add another selection of ingredients to this pot. So into your pot you're going to add 200 ml of cold water, 100 grams of vegan butter or margarine, 200 grams of brown sugar, ideally molasses if you can find it, 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. So we're going to add all those ingredients to this pot. So water, vegan butter, brown sugar, ideally molasses if you can find it, or blackstrap molasses, but this is going to have to do because it's all I could find. And a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. That is going to fizz up loads. Don't be alarmed by it, but just make sure you put all your ingredients in a big enough pot, or it is just going to go everywhere. So now we're going to heat up this mix. Mix all your ingredients together in the pot. Turn up the heat and bring to a boil. Just keep stirring and keep a close eye on your mix. So bicarbonate soda is going to foam up a bit. Don't be alarmed by this. Just make sure you've put all your fruit in a big enough pot. That's just going to help soften all your fruit. So that's now boiling. We're going to turn it right down. So after you've turned it down, leave your mix to simmer for 10 minutes. That's now been simmering for 10 minutes. I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm now going to leave it to cool for an hour or two. So our mix has now been cooling for 2 hours. That's how it looks. Now we're going to add in egg replacer instead of eggs because it's a plant-based recipe. So this is the egg replacer I use. We're going to add in egg replacer equal to 2 eggs. For my egg replacer, I'm going to need 2 teaspoons of the powder and 4 tablespoons of water. So in here I've got 2 teaspoons of the powder. In here's just some water. So I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of water in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to mix it all together with a tiny electric whisk. I think this is for hot chocolates. Whiz it up. Make sure you scrape everything off the bottom and sides of the glass and give it a really good whisk. Right, I think that should do. How good does that look? Yum. Go ahead and put your egg replacer in. Mix that in. Now that's all mixed in. Put it one side for a minute. So now you can go ahead and preheat your oven to 140 degrees. So now we're going to line our cake tin. I'm just going to be using a square cake tin. The base pops out of my one, which makes it so much easier to get your cakes out and for tracing for baking paper. So this cake tin is 20 centimetres or 8 inches square. You're also going to need your baking paper or parchment, scissors and a pen. Get your baking paper. Pop the bottom of your cake tin on top, holding the base of your tin steady. Draw an outline around the base of your cake tin. If you don't have a cake tin that comes apart, you can just draw around the bottom of your cake tin. Cut out the parchment just inside the line. It's a bit wiggly, but it'll do the job. There we go. You're going to want to cut out 2 strips for the sides of your pan. Put your base back in, get yourself some kitchen roll and some dairy-free margarine. Scrunch up your kitchen roll, rub it in your margarine, and just rub that all over the inside of your cake tin. So this is going to help your baking paper stick to your tin. Get your cut-out parchment, place the bottom in first, and that strips we cut out, pop them along the sides. This doesn't really have to be perfect. It's just there to help your cake not stick to the cake tin, and if it's not sticking, pop on a bit more margarine. Now we can cut down these edges, make it flush with the top of the tin. And that's how your cake tin should look once it's lined. You're also going to need a large square of baking paper. Fold in half, fold into quarters, and that's the middle of the paper there. All you want to do is just cut off a tiny triangle. So when you open it out, there's a little square in the middle, so that's just to help the moisture rise up out the cake while cooking. So pop your cake tin and your protector sheet out of the way for a little minute. So we're now ready to add the final ingredients to our cake mix. So in this bowl we've got 400 grams of wholemeal bread flour. So we're going to add to the bowl of flour a selection of different ingredients. So starting up here, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of ginger, half a teaspoon of ground mixed spice, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder. Pop all of those into that bowl with the flour, mix that together. And now I'm going to add the zest from 1 lemon and 1 orange. So I'm using unwaxed organic lemons and oranges for my Christmas cakes. It's just personal preference, but you can use whatever you like. So that's the zest from 1 lemon and 1 orange. It's pretty rough, I know. Never mind. Go ahead, pop that into your bowl as well, and mix your zest into the flour. So now just tip all your dry ingredients in this bowl into the wet ingredients. In it goes. Mix it in really well. And keep mixing until the ingredients are well combined. So now everything is well mixed. Get your cake tin. Go ahead and scoop your mix into your cake tin. Push that cake into the corners. So smooth out the top of your cake as best you can. It's not the easiest kind of cake to smooth out because of course it's got so much fruit in it. So it's not going to be perfectly smooth on top. Don't worry too much about that. That's about as good as it's going to get, I think. So you're going to pop your cake in the oven now at 140 degrees for 1 hour. Remember to pop your parchment on top of your cake. This is going to stop it from burning, but it'll still let moisture out from that little hole. The cake's been in the oven for an hour now. I'm going to turn it down to 120 and I'm going to put a timer on for 2.5 hours. In 2.5 hours, I will switch off the oven and I'll continue to leave the cake in the oven to cook a little bit by itself for 20 minutes. So the cake has finished cooking. The oven's been turned off for the last 20 minutes. That's the cake straight out of the oven. So I'm going to let the cake cool down. Place a wire rack on top. Flip your cake. Get rid of the tin. Well, that popped off really easy, didn't it? I'm going to peel the parchment now because sometimes it can be quite difficult to remove after it's cool. So we're going to wrap the cake in parchment paper. The cake is very roughly wrapped in baking paper, or parchment paper, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to leave that to cool overnight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Well, it's the next day. The cake is now fully cooled down. It does take quite a long time to cool completely down, and you want to have it completely cool before you put it in your Tupperware or your cake box. So I'm going to keep the cake wrapped in parchment, and I'm going to place it in a Tupperware dish kind of thing. Pop the lid on. Between now and Christmas, this cake will keep quite happily as long as it's kept in a cool, dark area or room. Every couple of weeks to a month, I will just be drizzling on a little bit of spiced rum. Because I can! So why not? It's festive. I might not drink very much, generally. But when I do, I like to pour it on my food. Seems legit, doesn't it? So now we just have to wait for Christmas before we can decorate. If you've enjoyed this Christmas cake recipe, like, comment, share, subscribe. I mean, subscribing is of course optional, but it's very much appreciated. And thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! While we wait for the dog to sit down and stop making noise, that would be tremendous, Chico, thank you. The dog's drinking. Don't worry, Chico, I've got all day or all night now. Okay. Tip your bowl of dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. Oh my gosh, and the dog just farted. When you first put your cake in, put it in at 140 degrees for one... The phone's ringing. Now, my pretty, we just wait for Christmas. I shall feed you rum and we shall wait for Christmas together. Oh my god, I've lost the plot. No, I haven't. I just really like Christmas cake. It's an essential. Love when the house smells like Christmas. Can you smell that? It smells like Christmas. Definitely smells like Christmas.